What's going on, you guys? My name's Ty Knots, and welcome to Top 5 Unknowns, 5 haunting 3 a.m. stories from Reddit. Number 5. So this happened about 10 years ago when I was a freshman in college and I just started dating my boyfriend. We lived a few towns away at the time, and I was taking some of the back roads toward the parkway to get home. I'd fallen asleep at his house while watching a movie, so it was about 3 a.m. and I was exhausted. I knew the way to the parkway well enough, but I still wasn't that familiar with that particular part of town. As you get closer to the parkway, you have to actually cut through a park to get through the entrance ramp. That being said, there are very few lights and the nearest house wasn't very far away, but it was totally out of sight. I pull onto the short road and I see a gold sedan stopped in the middle of the road. It was actually stopped in such a way that it didn't matter which way you were traveling, it wasn't gonna let you by. So I slow my car down and I'm trying to see if I can see headlights coming from the other direction so that I can just pull around him. But before I could make a move, this tall man runs around from the front of his car and starts waving his arms to get my attention. But there was no way that I was going to stop for this guy. He didn't look worried and he didn't even look scary, but an alarm went off in my head that something wasn't right. I tried to inch up so that I could pass him, but he stood in front of my car and wasn't going to let me through. I quickly locked all of my doors and just stopped. He then started trying to talk to me and is now making his way over to my window. My hearing isn't very good, but he was so close to me that I could read his lips, and he was asking me for help and wanted my cell phone to call someone. I said that I was very sorry, but no. He then had his hand on my window and said please. I said no again and didn't care if I ran over his foot, I just left. I was genuinely starting to get scared. I was able to just barely pass, but had to do so in the oncoming traffic lane. I look in my mirror and he's just standing in the middle of the road staring at me. I could see the anger in his face through my brake lights. So I pull back into the right lane, and as I did, my headlights catch 3 men climbing out of the bushes. They were all dressed in the same black t-shirt and jeans, and they were all glaring at me. I could almost feel the anger radiating off of them. I gunned it and flew up the road and onto the parkway. I could feel my whole body shaking, asking itself what had just happened. What were they going to do if I had stopped? I pulled out my phone and then I called the police, and they had me transferred a few times because no one could figure out where I was talking about on the highway. When I was finally able to tell someone what had happened, they sent a car over to check it out, and I asked the officer to call me back and let me know if they found them since I drove over there a lot. He later told me that by the time he got there, the men and the car were gone. But not even 5 minutes later, another woman called in and had the exact same story in the exact same location. I was advised not to drive through that road at night anymore, and I've never taken that exit again since. When I told my parents about this, my mom began bawling and my dad was extremely angry, but they were both very proud of me for not stopping. There was also a new rule instituted in our family to always text someone when we were on our way home. Number 4. So this story comes from a few months back, but it still freaks me out a bit thinking about what could have possibly happened. It was a Saturday night and I'd been out drinking with my brother and some friends. I had to drive a distance the next morning, so I didn't get too drunk. I got home by myself around 3 a.m. and was about to head up to bed when my phone started buzzing. It was a friend of mine asking if I could come pick up my brother because he was drunk and throwing up. I informed him that I'd been drinking so I couldn't drive, but would walk down in order to guide him home. The town center with all the pubs and clubs is just around a 10-minute walk away, so I headed back out. About 5 minutes into the walk, I'm listening to music and minding my own business. As expected, the road is pretty much empty except for me. I look across the road and notice a guy with a hood slowly walking toward me. I find it weird, but assumed that he was just drunk and didn't think much of it. I then noticed out of the corner of my eye that he'd stopped walking and was watching me walk. What really caught my attention was that he then crossed over to walk behind me, still with his hood up and just kind of lurking there. I turned my music down slightly so that I could hear if he makes any movements or anything. And after about 30 seconds of him just following me, I then hear footsteps sprinting towards me. As I turn to face the guy, he instantly stops running and turns his head as if acting like he wasn't trying to do anything. I'm not really a confrontational person, so don't ask me why, but I simply crossed the road and saw my brother walking toward the hooded person. I then called my brother over to my side of the street and proceeded to walk the opposite way back home. I turned my head back to see that the man just sat down on a wall, just watching me and my brother as we walked away. I kept the encounter to myself, but realized that I should have said something to someone. But anyway, a few weeks later, I read an article in the local newspaper about how a man that matches this guy's description allegedly tried to mug a woman until she screamed. He then proceeded to throw the lady's phone back at her and run away. Number 3. This happened about 3 years ago when I was 14. I'm also a girl, if that makes any difference. My family lives in a decently safe neighborhood in a small city, so these kind of things don't usually happen here. So one night around 3 a.m., I was dead asleep in bed. My mom, my brother, and his friend were all awake talking downstairs in the living room. My other brother and dad were gone, so it was only us. While talking, they suddenly heard movement on the roof, so they stopped and listened. They didn't hear anything else, so they went on talking and assumed it was a bear or a raccoon. At the time, only one light was on in our house, and it was the one that is above our stove, so it's very dim. No one could see inside. While talking, they suddenly heard movement, but this time it was louder. They then realized that someone was walking on the roof. My mom then ran upstairs to come get me out of bed, and I was startled awake by her frantic knocking. She then said in a whisper yell, "Someone's on the roof." I quickly jumped out of bed, and that's when I saw him. I saw a man in a white mask pressing his face against my window trying to see in, and at that point I ran out of my room and downstairs. My brother and his friend were both outside throwing things at this guy, but he was just like a sitting duck. My brother then ran inside to try to get some sort of weapon, but when they came down, he already jumped down from the side. They then chased him down the street until he ran into a forest and they couldn't see him any longer. The cops then got to our house after he was gone. We filed a report and they searched around, but nothing ever really came of it. To this day, we have no idea who or what this guy wanted. Number 2. I used to stay up until about 4 a.m. The only show that was ever on that was any good at the time was Law & Order SVU. So it comes on and I'm about to turn my light off when I hear a small noise from the front of my apartment. I shrug it off and continue to get ready for bed. At this point, I have no clothes on whatsoever because that's just how I sleep. Next thing I remember is hearing footsteps through the hallway and my doorknob jiggle. At first I thought I was just hearing things, but then I hear my mom's door right beside mine close. I thought maybe she'd gotten up to walk our dog because sometimes he would really need to go out at night and wake her up anytime. But then it hits me. The footsteps were slow and there were no lights on in my house. Had my mother gotten up, she would have switched on a lamp or something. I then slowly peek my head out of my door and take a step towards her. I open her door to complete darkness. She's in bed and it's obvious that she hasn't moved. I say her name and all she says back is "Go to your room." Now, I'm a very curious person, so I told her to turn the light on. I absolutely knew that someone was in our house and I wanted to see who it was. But again, she told me to just go back to my room. I've never felt so frozen with fear. I put on clothes and I'm shaking and looking for something to defend us with. Next thing I hear is the bathroom door shut. It's across from both of our bedrooms. She then yells for me to get into her room and we slam the door shut and lock it. She tells me to grab the phone and dial 911. Meanwhile, we can hear this person going back and forth from my room to the bathroom. We can hear him opening drawers and going through all of our things. The police finally showed up after about 45 seconds. They come to the door and the dispatcher I'm talking to says our door is locked and that they're going to have to break it down unless we can come unlock it. It then dawned on me that this guy came through the front door because I never thought to lock it when we came home, so he must have locked it behind himself. My mom then runs to the door while the guy's still in the bathroom. They then run in the bathroom with guns drawn and I'm freaking out because this all hit me at once that we were in danger. They then cuff him and drag him outside. They then come to me and ask if I want to try to identify him, but I have no idea who he was. They retrieve many of my things that he had tried to steal. My camera, old phones, stuff like that. They then take a report and it's all over with. Come to find out, he was my neighbor's cousin. He'd just been cheated on by his soon-to-be baby mama, so he went out and got high and decided to break into our place. I'm not sure exactly what he was thinking, but to the guy that broke into our house, let's not meet again. Number 1. This just happened about an hour ago. I live with my boyfriend and 3 other housemates in a house and apartment on top of a nail salon. So to enter and exit our house, we have to go up and down the stairs through the front and back doors. I was staying up late tonight writing a paper for school. My boyfriend had already gone to sleep and I didn't want to bother him, so I went to work in the kitchen. Now, the kitchen is in between the front and back doors, connected by a long, narrow hallway. My other housemates generally stay up late too. One of them, whose room is closest to the front door, had just fed his cat and said goodnight to me about 5 minutes before 3 a.m. Just a few moments later, I heard the door open and thought it was my housemate who just said goodnight to me. I thought he forgot something or couldn't sleep, so he opened his door to come back out to the kitchen. I then peeped my head into the hallway to talk to him, but instead I was greeted by a middle-aged dude in a dark hoodie, walking quietly up the stairs from my front door. Freaking out, I said hello, and the guy stammered and responded, "Am I at the right house?" I said, "Probably not. What's the address you're looking for?" He responded, I was going to the nail salon. I then replied, "Yeah, you're at the wrong place. The nail salon is downstairs." Everyone is sleeping, so the hallways are dark and the only light is coming from the kitchen where I was working. I couldn't see him clearly, but I was in the light, so he could probably see me clearly. Now mind you, I'm extremely tired, and only moments after he left, it finally hit me. Why did he ask if he was in the right house and say that he was going to the nail salon? And why was he walking up my stairs quietly in a dark hoodie? Also, the nail salon obviously isn't going to be open at 3 a.m. So what was he expecting on doing? And finally, all of our front doors were locked. So how exactly did he get in? Could he have had a key? So creepy guy from the staircase, let's not meet. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos.